Hi, it's Sandy Wyllie. Welcome to my mental health channel, where I wipe away the stigma of mental illness by talking about my own personal struggles, having borderline personality disorder. I talk about my struggles having anxiety disorder and panic attacks, depression, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I talk about my narcissistic mother who was abusive and narcissism. I talk about schizophrenia. I wrote a book about my schizophrenic father, Life with My Schizophrenic Father, and the link to that book is down below in the descriptions. I talk about my unethical psychologists who physically, verbally, emotionally, and sexually abused me, and I've written many books about them as well. The links are below in the description. And just about a plethora of other mental health related topics. But I only come on as a former patient of almost 20 years. I am not a licensed therapist. I do not hold a degree in psychology, so I cannot diagnose you or give you a professional opinion. All I ask in turn of you is your kindness and respect always in the comments. Please be kind and respectful to me. Be kind and respectful to other people who comment. We don't need to agree on everything, but we always need to show each other respect and kindness. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome. Stick around, take a chance, hit that little box there on the lower right-hand corner that says subscribe. That way you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. It's 100% free. So go on, give it a thumbs up if you like it, share it with your friends and family. Let's spread the love. Let's form a nice friendship here with each other. Feel free to comment. I always answer back comments, and let's have an ongoing discussion. Now, today's topic is why couples therapy almost never works. All right. Those of you who know, I have borderline personality disorder. I've been in therapy since I was 38 years old till in my late 50s, almost 20 years. I've been to every different kind of therapy, DBT, CBT, IFS, psychoanalysis, psychodynamic. I mean, I could go on and on. I've had psychiatrists, psychologists, licensed therapists, social workers, men, women, old people, young people, black people, white people, European people. I run the gamut on therapists, and none of them ever helped me. In fact, they made me 100 times worse. But this video that I'm doing today solely focuses on couples therapy. Now, I've been in couples therapy 3 times. Twice with my husband and once with my psychologist. Yes, I was sexually abused and had a 2-year sexual affair with Dr. James Barbaria. Now, Dr. James Barbaria had a lot of problems. He had a very traumatic childhood like I did, and he was extremely unethical. I saw him for private therapy, and I was seeing Dr. Richard Geist at the same time. I had 2 psychologists. At one point, I had 3 psychologists, but we won't get into that for the sake of this video. So, I was seeing Dr. Richard Geist for one-on-one therapy, and then I was also seeing Dr. James Barbaria for one-on-one therapy, and Dr. James Barbaria started making advances in therapy with me. He started holding me, pushing me into his lap, putting his tongue down my throat, having me perform orally on him. Then it got to the point where we went up to his bedroom and had intercourse, and he told me I could never tell anyone because I'd be responsible for all his patients if he lost his license. At the same time, I introduced Dr. James Barbaria to Dr. Richard Geist. Now, he was my therapist as well, as I told you. Dr. Richard Geist was unethical as well, and he was sexually exploitive and abusive to me. He laid all over me on the floor. I gave him back massages. He let me sit in his lap and stroke his penis, and had me in his house, invited me to his vacation home in Maine. And I told him also about Dr. James Barberi. So they knew about each other. I was not dishonest. I didn't, they both knew I was seeing, you know, Dr. James Barberi knew about Dr. Richard Geist, that I was seeing him for therapy, and vice versa. And Dr. Richard Geist encouraged me to have sex in a relationship. He said, with my other psychologist, Dr. James Barberi, he said, oh yeah, doctors frig around, bang their patients all the time. Why is that anything? No, go for it. Go upstairs, tell them you want to lay in bed with them and do this to them and go down on them. So it turned out that Dr. James Barberi was looking for a therapist, and I said, why don't you, see, Dick. Well, let's call Dr. Richard Geist Dick and Dr. James Barberi a Jim, just to make it easier. So he started seeing Jim, the therapist I was having sex with, started seeing Dick for individual therapy. Then it was Jim's idea that we should go as a couple because we had so many problems in the relationship. So get this. Me, now I was banging my therapist, Jim. Jim was seeing Dick for individual therapy. I was seeing Dick. I introduced them. That's how he was seeing Dick for individual therapy. Now Jim wants me and him to go to Dick to do couples therapy. This is the weirdest, wackiest, most bizarre thing out there, all right? So this is why I don't believe in couples therapy. I told you I already did it twice with my husband and once with my shrink. So I've been in couples therapy 3 times with 2 different men. And it was disastrous, and I'm totally against it. It doesn't work out, and I'm going to tell you why. Just keep watching. First of all, we should have never, Dick should have never agreed to do, it was unethical. He should have reported Jim for having sex with his patient. He shouldn't be seeing me and Jim as a couple for couples therapy because, number one, it was an unethical relationship. Jim was my doctor. I was, a patient, a borderline patient who had anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was dealing with a lot at the time. I lost my parents back to back, 3 months apart. I had a child who was an invalid from traumatic brain injury, was hospitalized for 2 years. I was dealing with a heavy plate of problems. I went to Jim for help because he was a doctor. He had a doctorate degree on his wall of psychology. He was a practice licensed psychologist. So, and I was his patient. I wasn't looking to date him. I was looking for help. So first of all, that should have never happened. And Dick should have reported that. But of course, Dick was unethical too because he sexually manipulated me and took advantage of me as well, even though we didn't have intercourse. Now, another reason why we shouldn't have been in there is because I was married, all right? He shouldn't be doing and living with my husband and son. It wasn't like I was married getting a divorce, or I was married and getting separated. No, I wasn't separated. I wasn't divorced. I was living married, legally married to my husband, Andrew, and my son was living with us, one of my sons, in the same house. And I was another man's woman. And here Dick is doing couples therapy with me, a married woman, with my psychologist. I'm his patient. That's bizarre. He should have reported him. He should have never been doing couples therapy because we shouldn't have never been a couple because, it's against the law in half the states. And it's unethical, and every psychologist will lose their license who gets sexually involved with a patient. They say you're supposed to wait 2 years. Well, we never waited a day. Okay, with the exception, if you do wait 2 years with no contact, maybe then it's okay, but we didn't wait at all. We were right there going at it with each other. And so that situation should have never occurred in the first place. But here are other reasons why couples therapy almost always never works out. Most of the time, one of the people in the couple doesn't want to go to therapy. In the case with me and my husband, I really didn't want to go to therapy. So if, one of the people is pushing for it and the other one doesn't and just goes along with it and doesn't really want it, then it's kind of hard for that situation to work out because one of them doesn't really want it and is going along because the other one wants it. So that's one reason. Another reason is in couples therapy, the relationship is the patient. Okay, when you go into individual therapy, you are the patient. But when you go into couples therapy, the two people together, the relationship is the patient. So the therapist is supposed to do what's best for the relationship, not for the husband, wife, or the girlfriend, boyfriend. They're supposed to look at what is best for this relationship. Now, what's best for the relationship might not be good for one of the people in the couple. It might be good for one of them, but it might be horrible for the other one. So the one it's not going to benefit is not going to, is really not going to get anything out of it and is going to really grow to resent it. It's not going to stick with it. Let me give you an example. Like if you're in couples therapy and the therapist says, in order for this relationship, to improve, you need to do more to the husband. You need to stay home and not go out with your friends every night. And you need to pick up some of the slack, do, half the housework. Your wife works full time. You have children, young children, 4 children. You can't be going out every night. This is what's going to benefit the relationship. If the woman is burnt out and ready to collapse because she does all the housework, her husband's gone out to the bars at night. So the couples therapist says, this is what you need to do for the relationship. And then the husband goes along with it and ends up resenting and hating the wife. It doesn't work out because what's best for the relationship isn't necessarily what's best for him. He wants to, get away after working like 10 hours a day. He wants to just go out for a few drinks and he doesn't want to, come home or whatever. So even though he goes along with what the counselor is saying, he grows to resent it. He grows to hate it. And it's just not working out. So you see, another reason is that therapists are only human beings. And I've done hundreds of videos on this, okay? They make mistakes and they are fallible. It's very hard not to take sides, even though you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be impartial. You're not supposed to take sides. But it's very hard not to take sides. So a therapist usually will favor one of the people over the other. Now let's just take, let's say it's a female therapist. I go into therapy with my husband. And she favors my husband over me. She don't like me. Woman with woman, like, she looks at me and goes, you've cheated. You're a slut. This poor man put up with your shit. So she doesn't like me, so that's already a strike against me. She can't be impartial. And this has happened in therapy. So then she plants seeds of doubt in my husband. Why do you take her shit? Why do you let her do that? Da-da-da-da-da-da. She starts, making a case against me. I'm just using this as an example. So the therapist picks sides and favors one person over the other and starts, making the situation much worse than when they went in. Starts, planting seeds of doubt. Starts, and then what happens a lot of times is the couple splits up after they've gone to couples therapy. A lot of the times the couple will break up. And why is that? Because the therapist favored one over the other. There was this case long time ago. What was his name? He was a psychologist in California. And I had him on my friends list on LinkedIn. I really forget. I can't think of it. Anyway, he was pretty famous. He was on the news channel. He was from California based, on the news channel, and he did talks, and I can't think of his name. Anyway, he did couples therapy, with an engaged couple, a much younger woman. She was engaged to this guy, and he was a couples therapist. And this was, in the news, because this guy was pretty famous. He was on the news, the California news, not not New England news, not where I'm from. And he talked about therapy. He was, a pretty famous therapist, and I was friends with him on LinkedIn. He was one of the people that not friends, but a connection. He was, one of my connections. And what happened was, of course, he took a shining to the young female, and he ended up having an affair. And he was married too, so he had an adulterous affair because he was married. She was engaged. Their relationship, they both went for help because they were engaged. They went for couples counseling. He took advantage of that. They split up. He made them split up. I mean, he got sexually involved with the woman in the couple. Okay, he got sexually involved with her, so they split up. Eventually, she brought him to the licensing board, and he had to surrender his license. I think he retired at the age of 60 or something, pretty young. I wish I could remember his name. But there again, another situation, and this was like in the news. So this isn't, you could Google this if I could figure out what the hell his name was, but he was from California. And anyway, it was in the news. You could Google it if I remember his name. But anyway, it almost never works out because the therapist, even though they're supposed to be impartial, will favor one of the people in the couple over the other, and usually plant seeds of doubt in, that person, in that person's mind. So it doesn't work out. I've been in couples therapy, like I said, 3 times. And I thought one of the psychologists, one of the doctors that I had for couples therapy with my husband, Dr. Alan O'Hare, I really liked the man. I liked him a lot, but it didn't work out just the same. I've talked to people I've known who went to couples therapy, marriage counseling, and it didn't work out. Most of the time, it almost never works out. Like I said, and a lot of the times, it makes the situation 100 times worse. And this is what happened to me in my therapies. I walk in, right, with these problems, and I walk out 100 times worse than when I walked in. So a couple could walk in hoping to work on their problems, and it could blow up in their face. And the therapist chooses sides because they play mind games. Is another video I did about how therapists play mind games. You don't even know they're playing mind games. But what do you think that doctor was doing from California? He wanted to get in that girl's pants in the worst way. She was hot. She was young. He was 60. She was probably in her 20s. She comes in with her boyfriend. They're engaged to get married. He sees opportunity to jump her bones, okay? What does he do? But he plants seeds in that female's mind that the guy you're going to marry, you shouldn't marry, and these are da-da-da-da the reasons why, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, and before you know it, bam, he's in her pants. And they split up. This is what you got to watch out for. You don't even realize when this is happening. And I didn't realize a lot of times I was played over and over in therapy because I have borderline personality disorder. They love to, go after people with my diagnosis because we're very volatile people, very sensitive people, hypervigilant people, very intuitive people, very intelligent people. I'm very sensitive. I have severe abandonment issues, and there's a lot of there's just a lot of things that if you usually see therapists that get sexually involved with their clients, it's usually the clients that have borderline personality disorder. We have gotten a very bad rap, okay? Borderlines are the most loving, the most passionate, the most devoted, the most intuitive, and the most intelligent patients out there, you know, because they have been hurt. They know what it's like to have their heart ripped out. That's how you get this disorder, from having a traumatic childhood, having been, you know, the people you trusted have severely abused you over and over again. So you have severe trust issues. You've been hurt so bad. It's like picking at your skin until it bleeds, until all the skin is off and you're just flesh and bone. It's just like picking until you have no skin left. You have no skin. You know, you're like a burnt victim. That's what having borderline personality disorder is. It's like being a burnt victim. You have nothing left after, you know, you've just been gnawed at and pulled at, and just I've done many videos on that, and that's not what this video is about. So those are the reasons why I think that, you know, couples counseling is a waste of time. Not only a waste of time, but it's detrimental and can hurt you. And I've given you the reasons there. And let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe you've been to couples therapy and it worked out great. And you can disagree and say, hey, Sandy, you know what? I don't agree with you. I went and it saved my marriage, or it saved my relationship. And I'd love to hear about that. We don't have to agree. I like to hear opposing sides too, you know, just as long as you're kind and respectful. And that's all I ever ask for. So let's have an ongoing conversation about it. All right. Until next time, you take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.